Hello guys, welcome back. I just want to give part 4 coaching tips, and part 4 is about coaching prep as well as briefing. So coaching prep just means how to prepare your team, your worship team, before your briefing, and how to prepare your team when the briefing starts. Like, what are some ways to help to have the most beneficial briefings and to prepare your worship leaders and associate worship leaders for the most smoothest time in leading their worship teams. And so I'm going to divide this into 2 sections. The first section is just preparation for meeting your team, meeting your worship leaders, and then also the second section will be preparation for briefings. So for the first part would be preparation. One of the things that really helps when you first get your worship team is to meet up with your primary and associate worship leader and just talk to them. You want them to be as well informed as possible about what is going to happen in the next 3 weeks and how they can have the most accurate information as possible. And so what I'd recommend is at that point begin to gather all the information and email addresses for your team and other important info that may be helpful to help make sure everyone knows where they're supposed to be at the right time. You want to delegate as much information as possible to the primary and associate worship leader. To be honest, I don't want the coaches to be doing most of the work and telling them where to go. I want the worship leaders to take that authority and to run with it, and to give them the authority to go with that. And so provide clear and accurate instructions for the songs, lengths, timings. I'll talk more about that. But you want to pray. When you meet up with your worship leaders, to pray with them, pray for know their lives, know what they've gone through in the past, and get to know their personal story a little bit, so that you can be able to sow into them, because you're going to be sowing probably into them the most out of the team, because they're going to be helping lead and the rest of the team that you're working with. So for providing clear and accurate instructions for song lengths, that's really important. So we'll talk about this later in another section for how to prepare worship leaders in a more in-depth way, like how to prepare them beforehand, what it would look like for songs and lengths and timings. So that's kind of like a to be continued for later on. And but provide clear, accurate instructions for the worship leaders. The second part is briefing. Briefing is really important. A lot of times we waste time during briefings because what we do is we just kind of are not really sure what we're doing. The worship leaders aren't really sure what they're doing, and so we just waste time the first couple sets. And so we want to kind of eliminate that wasting time as much as possible. And so what I would say is, for the first time that you meet up together for briefing, give them clear instructions. Once again, the Harp Bowl model, even if it is review, and what it requires of them, what they should be doing. And then you want to create these paper outlines. So the best way to do this is have these little kind of pieces of paper that tells what song's being played, what key it's being played in, what's the time signature, and then during the cycle, when the cycle is being made, when should who is playing the chord progression and what is the chord progression itself, so everyone knows. I would recommend not having this in national numbers, but instead having this as in letters, because not everyone can follow in the beginning with national numbers, so having it in letters is the most beneficial for the entirety of the team. And so in the first debrief, I'd recommend let the head coach lead it, but after that, let the worship leader or the associate lead it from there. Kind of provide an example, and then from that example, let the worship leaders begin to step into their designated and appointed role during the trip, during the camp, so that they can actually kind of experience what it's like leading a team. And even if it kind of goes south a little bit, allow them to kind of experience what it's like leading a team. It's really helpful for them, and when they go back to their home churches, they'll really benefit if you actually give them as much authority as possible. So that is part 4 for coaching prep and briefing.